Hi guys, it is I, Becca Lori Hector here, back with Becca's Backyard Live. Yeah, so here I am I feel crooked for some reason. I don't know. Here I am on my back porch as I usually am for our little supporty group type thing that we do. Um, yeah, so I'll wait a little bit, I guess. We'll give a few minutes before we get into the topic directly. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Let me know you're here. Um, I love the interactivity part of the live stream. It's the thing that I dig the most because I don't get that much of it in the rest of the work that I'm doing. So yay for chat. Welcome back to Becca's Backyard Live. What do I have to talk about today? On a personal front, I am feeling a little bit exhausted today, a little bit pushed past my own limits, I guess. I had a house guest this past weekend, or we had a house guest this past weekend. Loved having someone over. I loved seeing this person. I had a fantastic time. Everything about it was good, but it still uses a lot of spoons and all the getting readiness of, getting ready for someone to come over takes spoons. And so I had to go, into my kind of, use all my spoons and borrow from the next day kind of mentality a little bit to get through yesterday. And I'm feeling a little better today, getting some stuff done yesterday and more stuff done today. But I can hear it in my voice. I don't know if you guys can hear it in my voice. I'm just tired. And I just, I'll catch up and all will be well once again. But I just thought I'd share that with you because I had that experience of like positive spoon usage this weekend, and it exhausts you nonetheless because it still uses your spoons, but it is so well worth it. And I just wanted to remind you that sometimes we can deplete our spoons, but in a good way. And I thought that was just something to throw out there for you guys. So hi, Joe. Hi, Karen, Nancy, Bill, CV. Welcome to chat. I'm glad to have you guys here again. Did a little poll in a few places today to ask kind of what topics you guys were interested in for the live stream. I had some interest in an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything, but I feel like that takes some kind of prep work and I need to be reminding people to have questions ready in some way. I don't know. But if you're really if you're really interested in doing an AMA with me, let me know in the chat or get in touch with me some other way, and I will for sure add it to the list of things that I can do. Oh my goodness, this is very high up. I'm very short. Okay, so today, the results of the poll. So I threw a bunch of ones up there that are ones I've gotten, shared with me or ideas I've had on my own. And the winner of today's poll was creating and maintaining boundaries. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in our little support groupie that we're doing here. Yeah, Stevie, good spoon usage. There is, everything takes spoons, and including doing the fun things. And you need to remember to count your spoons in both cases. But there is good spoon usage. We know that it happens. So yes, it's a good thing to remember that we can definitely do. Let's see what else. Thunderstorms, right? So we're also in the middle right now of some scattered thunderstorms. So it's like overcast and occasionally thundering. So I hoped maybe we'll see. Hopefully it'll like come in a little heavier when we're on stream and you guys can enjoy the thunder a little bit too. It's one of my favorite weathers. And so I don't know. I guess I'm going to move forward and this is going to look awkward. Okay. All right. There we go. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about boundaries. Let's talk about what they mean and why we have such a hard time with them and all of that fun, good stuff, shall we? Boundaries. Everybody struggles with them. All human beings struggle with them. Boundaries come up in all different ways and all different components of our lives. But they serve a purpose. And when you don't have them, not having boundaries, right, is equally dangerous as having too many boundaries, right? So you can put up so many boundaries that you protect yourself from everything and end up letting nothing in, right? Or you can have no boundaries up and you can put, and then you let everything in, right? And that neither is very healthy, right? We talk about I talk about balance all the time with you guys. I'm about balancing out um, all of the things, the good, the bad, right? The tiring and the recharging, all of it. We talk about that a lot when I talk. And so, what I want us to remember in terms of boundaries is they do require a sense of balance, right? Too much in either direction is not healthy for anybody, right? But we do need some, and we have them there for particular reasons, right? Boundaries serve a purpose. They serve multiple purposes, actually. So, first is that they let people know your limits, right? That's the job of a boundary. You can go so far, but stop here. Here's the boundary, right? And so it lets people know kind of what our limits are within terms of our relationships. Now, those limits change with each person, and it can change even throughout a relationship, right? And so it's again what we want to remember, as with all things, nothing is permanent. Everything is always moving and changing. So your relationships are always moving and changing, and your boundaries with people should always be moving and changing, right? When somebody shows you a particular behavior that you don't want to be involved in, boundary, right? When things are going really good, maybe you take away a few, right? But that changes. It changes as our relationships change. Um, and I think we need to think about boundaries in a very specific way. So I had started talking about that, right? And that's one reason that boundaries, one of the ways that boundaries work for us and their job, right? And the other thing about boundaries is they keep us, on path, right? They keep us on the path that we're setting for, working towards the goals that we're setting. Because when we create boundaries around our goals, right, and where we want to be in and around the person we want to be out in the world, right, when we create boundaries that are in line, right, or in alignment with those goals, with the person that we want to be, they help us to stay on track. They keep us going in the direction that we want to be going in, right? And when I talked about this previously, I had used the kind of reference of picturing a bowling alley, right? And when you're a little kid and you're learning to bowl, they put up those bumper guards, right, to keep your ball from going in the gutter, because you're a kid and it always ends up there. So until you learn how to throw it so that it naturally doesn't go into the gutter, right, you have these bumper guards to keep you from the gutter. And that is what your boundaries are, right? They keep you going down the alley nice and smooth, right, and not getting sidetracked and pulled off track and into the gutter, right? And that's why we create them. And when they're all in line with the alley we're trying to go down, right, they work their best. There's no place for things to get through. And so that's the other job of a boundary, is to help keep you on track, as a reminder to keep you where you want to be and being the person that you want to be. And the other thing is it boundaries also, without saying so, state your value, right? When somebody doesn't have a lot of boundaries and they're giving away freely of themselves all the time until they're depleted, right? What that comes across as is that they don't value themselves enough to put a price on themselves, so to speak, or to not give everything away so easily, right? And so when we put up boundaries, what it tells people is, no, that thing is too valuable for me to give away, or that thing is not in alignment with who I want to be, or whatever our response is. But that's also the job of the boundary. It's sort of like a stop sign for other people, like, hey, nope, I don't think so, right? And it kind of allows us to teach people how to treat us, if that makes any sense. So boundaries work in a way that they teach other people what we expect out of them and their behavior. So when we let people's poor behavior through all the time, people know they can get away with things. And when we start putting up boundaries like, that behavior is not okay, right? I don't partake in that. We've put up a boundary that then says to that person, that's not how you can communicate with me. That's not what I participate in, right? And in that way, we're teaching them that we have more value than that. We don't choose to spend our spoons on that particular thing, whatever it may be. And so boundaries are super important. They also, you guys, in the search for value and values, when you are looking to think about your own value and what are the values that you choose to live out, right? Boundaries help with that. They help you stay in line with your values, right? They don't let other people drag you off of your value system, right? That's what we need to remember about boundaries. But that's not what we're taught, right? Here's the thing. We're always taught boundaries are a bad thing. Everybody tells us, oh, you better put, we use it like it's a threat. A boundary is somehow a threat to people. We're taught to use it as a threat, as a kind of punishment reward thing. But that's not what boundaries are for. Boundaries aren't created to do that. Boundaries are created to keep you in line, right? They're not to be used as a threat. They can't be willy-nilly, right? They can't be uncommitted boundaries. You have to be committed to your boundaries in the way that you are committed to your values and committed to your goals and committed to the living the life that you want to live and being the person that you want to be, right? And for all of those things to remain in line, we need all of these pieces and parts, like boundaries, right? So that's their purpose. We've talked about their purpose a little bit, right? Well, how do you set them up, right? Well, it begins by learning what things cross your boundaries, right? That one's a little bit difficult. It's kind of muddy waters there. But if you think about it for a little, there are things that people do, and when they do them, it irks you a little bit extra. Or it makes it harder for you to do something you need to do. Or, they do a thing and it maybe it triggers you to some other feeling, right? Or it triggers some other activity in you, right? And so, that is the purpose of setting up a boundary, is to let people know you don't want that stuff around you. And in order to create them, you have to start sticking by them. So that annoyance thing, that irksome person, right, comes in and does their irksome thing that pushes you. And it's at that point that you say, wait, I need a boundary here. This isn't okay. I don't want it to occur anymore. So you need to set one, and you set one there, right? And so that's how you begin to create them. You find the moments in your life where certain behaviors or certain tactics, certain mindsets, right, are unacceptable to you, right? And when you start to put boundaries around yourself about them, you don't want to partake in them and you don't want to partake in other people who do them, right? That gets uncomfortable for the other party. So here comes Becca's other favorite saying: get comfortable being uncomfortable. Had to get one in. You have to, right? Setting boundaries is uncomfortable. Saying no to someone you usually say yes to is uncomfortable, okay? Partially because it's new, partially because you don't know what the other person's response is going to be, and partially because you are taking an action to change a current circumstance, and change is scary, right? So, of course, setting boundaries is difficult. But it's such a good practice to do, because once you set up a boundary, you can practice your commitment to those boundaries, and you can make sure that you are staying in alignment with the person that you want to be, right? And so when you're creating them, understand that you're going to be sort of muddying up the waters for people. Suddenly you're changing the rules, right, by setting a boundary, and that is uncomfortable. You may get pushback on boundaries being set. You might have people who sort of rebel and dislike you for setting a boundary, because people like to get what they want. And being told no is not something that most people are comfortable with, right? They want what they want, and they want it now. So being told that that's not going to happen, and it's a new thing that all of a sudden isn't going to happen, can be uncomfortable. So get ready for that discomfort. It comes with that boundary setting. But the great thing is it disappears as fast as it came. Okay. Literally after that first time you set that boundary, it gets easier. It really does. It becomes a habit for you, and you help create a habit for that other person in terms of how they interact with you, what their behavior is like with you. Once they realize they've hit a boundary, right? And it's a strong one that you've kept with and you've committed to, right? Once they realize that, they're like, oh, I can't go that way. I can't do that thing. I'm not going to get anywhere with that. And they will definitely come up with a new tactic or another way of going about it. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to put those gutter guards up, right, for ourselves, those bumpers up for ourselves, so that when somebody runs into our boundaries, we go, a bumper doing its job, right? That's what's happening. I think boundaries start out uncomfortable because they are changed, but they become comfortable because what they are is clear communication. I mean, in their essence, a boundary is clear communication about what is okay and what is not okay, according to you, right? And everybody has their own boundaries, and everybody's boundaries can change over time, right? We all have them. Um, and so it's not an autistic thing in particular. But what I do think is, in particular for autistics, is that we get into a habit of doing whatever we can to please other people. And the concept of making someone else uncomfortable by putting up a boundary is something that we think is going to be a disservice to us. It's going to make people dislike us. And while it may make them dislike us in the moment, because we have that pouty child moment of, I didn't get what I wanted, after the fact, it leads to respect. And not just respect, that they learn to respect you, but you begin to respect yourself. And when we talk about the core pieces to self respect and self identity, we talk about strong boundaries every time. When you see a successful person, when you see a happy person, when you see someone who is in their flow, like in their total groove, right? That person has set up some really healthy, strong boundaries for themselves, right? They're not getting pulled in a million directions, right? And that's really the name of the game, is staying in alignment, staying toward your goal, staying with the person that you want to be, and not letting, the events of the outside world or the choices that other people make affect the way that you are choosing to live your life. And that's the place that we get muddied up in all the time, because as autistics, we're told our natural way of being is wrong, and we're always corrected for our natural way of being, right? But learning to create boundaries is an important part of that self-respect piece, an important part of that value piece, an important part of remembering that the conversation in your head may not always be your own voice, and that it needs to be replaced, right? So that's all part of boundary work. That's all part of creating it. It's about listening to those components, right? But what about maintenance? What about keeping them up? Here's the deal with boundaries, right? It takes commitment and it takes consistency. You will make mistakes in the beginning. They happen all the time. You will forget you put a boundary there and let someone walk through it, right, one more time, and or think that this situation is different. Be kind to yourself in those moments. They will happen. It's part of the learning curve, right? But remaining committed to that boundary setting, remaining committed to those particular boundaries that you're setting, right, and being consistent with keeping them in place is what makes them work and what makes relationships work, right? Because you're consistent and your communication lines are clear, right? So what we want to make sure that we do is, when we set a boundary or we correct a boundary or we add a new one or take one away, that when we make that change, we remain consistent with it, right? When we put one in place, we stay consistent with it. And if we're finding we can't stay consistent with it and we can't stay committed to it, do we need to tweak the boundary? Is that really the boundary that we're trying to set? Make sure that you're not chasing someone else's boundary or one that you might have heard somewhere else or think might be good. That's not where to start. You need to start where you're having the most conflict and strife. That is where the boundaries are missing the most. I can guarantee you, probably both parties. But if you set yours, you take care of yourself and you lead by example so that the people you're in relationships with say, hey, I want to feel more like that and less like I'm feeling. And then you get to take them through this little journey I'm taking you through, right? And that's the goal, is to just kind of to spread that awareness that that boundaries are really healthy for everybody, right? They're really an important piece. It's important to me that the people in my life don't let me walk all over them, that they have a certain amount of self-respect and that they feel that way about themselves. And that's how our family, friends, cohorts, community feel about us too. And so we don't want to be giving ourselves away freely. That's part of spoon theory and spoon management. Um, and so I wanted us to be thinking about that today, about really about creating and maintaining our boundaries and understanding that setting boundaries is healthy for both parties. It certainly is healthy for the party that's setting it, and that it really is a piece of that self-value, self-respect component to have them. So I would love it if you guys spend some time. Two of them, really. If you guys spend some time thinking about your boundaries. See, I just had a boundary crossed, but I'm not exactly sure how to handle that yet. But in any case, that's the kind of thing that we need to talk about, right? So let me catch up in the chat with you guys. Now that I got distracted, I will catch up with what you guys are talking about so that I can talk about it too. Um, yeah, so folks are trying out saying no to people, and it is hard. It's really hard, and especially when that's a parent, 100%, right? Because you're shifting the roles, right? You're stepping into adulthood in a very, very real way, and looking at your parents as equals rather than up kind of on a pedestal, right? As authority figures. Yes, a lot of us were taught to change our behavior and to make others comfortable, right? That's how, especially as autistics, that's what we were pushed towards. That's what passing is all about, right? It's making the other people around you comfortable so they don't notice your difference. And that's not a healthy way to be. And so neither is putting your own stuff on the back burner to make other people comfortable. It's not healthy, right? And it is, yes, it's hard to break out of it. It's a hard habit, but think about how much you've sacrificed in an effort to chase this burden, right? Of making other people comfortable. Think about the losses and let the losses motivate you, right? Yeah. Boundaries weren't respected. And okay, good. So we're seeing some folks in the chat where boundaries weren't respected and people hold a hard line. And sometimes that hard line means cutting people out of your life if they're really that unhealthy for you. And that can be family. It's okay if that's family. But what we have to remember is that each situation needs to be treated for what it is and the situation that it's in. And sometimes part of setting a boundary is taking a little bit of a loss for the bigger gain, for the greater gain of it all, right? So you may lose this one person, but who knows how you're going to feel, how much better you're going to feel, and how much you'll gain in that arena. And who knows who you've now made space for in your life by eliminating the person who wasn't healthy for you, right? So, yeah, so that's kind of really the whole situation. I'm glad I was able to kind of catch up with you guys. And I know that for me, setting boundaries was one of the first things I tackled and one of the hardest that I had to do, because I was so used to putting myself behind and so used to wanting other people around me to either ignore me and not notice me, or that I just added to their lives and stuff. But we need them. We need boundaries to protect ourselves, and we each need our own set for what works for us. And that takes time to develop. It takes commitment and consistency to maintain, but they're yours to create. And they're important. So think of them as a component of self-care, as a component of that piece of learning your value and your values, right? That's where this lies. That's where where boundaries live when you're exploring that area. I'm so excited to have talked about this with you guys today. What a good idea. I forgot who recommended it, but whoever tossed out boundaries, I appreciate it. I thought it was such a good one. I could talk about it for a really long time, and I definitely talk about it in my course. So get caught up, go out there, grab Unit 1. It is out for purchase now. Unit 2 will be coming live on August 5th. I hope to see a bunch of you there. I still have a few scholarship seats left to Unit 2. If you're interested, please reach out to me at info@beccalaurie.com so you can learn about self-defined living, a path to a quality autistic life. That's it for me, guys. I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope I got some wheels turning. It looks like I did, about boundaries and creating them and maintaining them. So it's been a good one. It's a good week this week here at Becca's Backyard Live. Sorry we didn't get thunder. I was hoping there would be some thunder. Not the case. Maybe next time, you guys. Until then, I will see you Friday with the all-new revamped Neurodiversity Newsstand, and I will also see you next Tuesday right here on Becca's Backyard Live, Tuesdays at 2:20 p.m. If you guys have suggestions for me for topics, please email me at info@beccalaurie.com. If you want to know about the course, if you want scholarship seats, if you have comments about these videos, if I missed something, if there's something you'd like me to talk about, all of that can be done with me via email, info@beccalaurie.com, which is LORY, or you can go right to my website and use the contact page. But I love hearing from you guys. I love having the time to sit here and share and think about the really important things in life with you, at least for 20 to 30 minutes once a week. I appreciate it. So good seeing everybody here. Bye, everybody. Miriam, I'm glad you stopped in even late. Happy to see you. And I am really glad to spend another little bit of time with you guys. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.